Today, the focus is on Nigeria's industrial economy. How can we accelerate growth in that sector? I'm joined now by my guest, who is a public affairs analyst, Dr. Alkali Abubakar. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us on Business Daily this morning.
Thank you, Chiamaka. Thank you.
I would like for you to, give us a reflection or description as to what the current state of the industrial sector is, because you wrote a very detailed piece on that recently. But let us hear from you now. Having done the research that you have done, what would you say is the current state of the Nigeria's industrial sector?
Yeah, I think the industrial sector is not what it should be at this moment. There is a stagnated growth of the sector. Actually, companies, corporations, investors are actually moving out in drops. I just heard in one of your briefs this morning that the gas exports have fallen 25% because of the, this issue of investors, going away. In the oil and gas sector, which is the mainstay of the economy, companies are actually divesting. Shell is actually divesting from onshore to offshore, and many other companies are actually divesting. So the industrial sector is not really what it should be. And when talking about the industrial sector, we have to actually, as much as possible, move away from the oil and gas sector in the spirit of, economic diversification. Now, the main issue actually is that the Nigerian economy is designed around consumption. It's designed to consume, not to produce. And I think this is the main issue behind the stagnated growth I was talking about of the industrial sector. It's designed around a unique commodity economy, which is oil. So all the hype, all the focus, all the work revolves around the oil and gas industry, which shouldn't be. And I think another problem also is that because our politics is not tied to the economy, our politics, there is no link between the politics and the economy. And you need that link because a lot of the political activities, are tied towards commercialization, of the votes. So at the end of the day, you don't really have the leaders, that you think will promote economic development. You have leaders who simply invest and they win elections and they come also, and some of them actually borrowed money, took loans from the banks where they have to pay. So that's the point I was making, that there's no link between our politics and our economy. Now, I've actually seen some of the comments of your respondents on social media. A lot of people talking about education, agriculture. Now, what we actually need to do is to come down to the specifics, to the basics. I think this issue of industrialization could be helped, if we narrow down to one particular commodity and invest, with another commodity as a complement. A situation where we move around 10 or 15 or 20 areas will not augur well. Let us have a budget, okay, this concept of zero budgeting, a budget that will say, okay, look, 25%, 30% of this budget is going to the textile industry. For me, if you ask me, the textile industry has the capacity to ensure an industrial growth, for Nigeria. For me, the textile industry has the capacity to birth, or to promote a proliferation of macro, small, and medium enterprises. Okay, let us say, okay, textile, we're investing in the textile industry. And the good thing there is actually that you have, you already have capacity there. There are textile industries in Nigeria already. Some even government-owned, okay, that are comatose now, that are not working. So all that the government needs to do is to have a resuscitation plan for some of these textile industries. And I tell
Doctor, I'll cut you short there. But you have said something that stood out for me, and you said that priority should be given to, you know, one item or one resource, I should say, you know, given so much attention to that resource, and then you made mention of the textile industry. But is that not, I mean, looking back in retrospect, isn't that what we saw play out with the oil sector? You know, so much focus being put into the oil sector and not so much focus also being given to other sectors, which led to, you know, the stifling of these other sectors. Isn't that what we have seen play out in the past?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, the difference actually there is that you see, oil is energy of the past. Oil cannot sustain your economy. That is the fact. Actually, you know, nations are diversifying away from oil. Nations are diversifying away from oil. The focus now, even in terms of the energy, you know, aspect of economic development, the focus is on renewable and unconventional sources of energy. So you cannot rely on oil. And yes, I agree with you. When we started, we had only oil, and then we are here today. But that is why I said, okay, in my statement, that we should have a complement. Okay, we should have a complement. We just more or less finished with one aspect, which is oil. Oil is almost, you see, it's going down. It has reached its limit. You know, it's on decline now. It's on decline, and that is the more reason why you should look at a more realistic aspect. Okay, and that is why I was talking about textile. Number one, the country has the capacity, you know, for this textile industry boom. It has the capacity, it has the market. I really do not see any reason why, if you ask me, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, Nigeria should not be the hub of textile business in Africa. I don't see any problem with that. I don't see any hindrance to that. And as I said, all that we need to do, okay, is to now prioritize, is to say, okay, this budget, okay. In the article you mentioned, I actually, you know, talked about collaboration between the three, you know, levels of government, between local government, the state government, and the federal government. I even talked about, you know, a plan where annually, you know, the federal government should partner with state governments and local governments to have a 3.5 trillion naira fund, industrialization fund, okay? And when you have this kind of fund, because the problem is, now if you have too many areas, okay, you are focusing on for your industrialization, for your manufacturing, you know, for your economic development through industrialization, you are actually spreading, okay, the investments. You are spreading the resources. You are saying, okay, I have 20 trillion and I'm putting 5 trillion here, 4 trillion there, but it actually, you know, slows down this process of monitoring and targeting. We should have a situation where we have a target, and when you have one commodity, which I keep emphasizing should be textile for me, the complement should be rice, okay, rice production. I really see no reason why Nigeria today should not be the net exporter of rice. Okay.
Well said, Doctor. Let us go on a short break. When we return, the conversation continues. My guest, who is Dr. Alkali Abubakar, is on standby, so do stay. And you are still watching Business Daily, that is coming to you live on Trust TV. And just before the break, we started a conversation on building Nigeria's industrial economy. We have started a conversation, but if you're just joining now, you haven't missed so much. As my guest, who is Dr. Alkali Abubakar, he is a public affairs. Thank you again, Doctor, for coming on the program this morning.
You're welcome again.
Okay, Doctor, I'd like for us to talk in the area of infrastructure building. I mean, looking at the business climate in Nigeria and how easy, in quote, I should say, it is to run a successful business in Nigeria. You have, questions that come up around infrastructure and infrastructure building, from power to transportation and the likes. And you have argued recently, about passionately building or prioritizing factory construction over infrastructure, like flyovers. We have seen, the building of flyovers recently, especially around the FCT. Let us hear from you. Why do you believe factories are more crucial for Nigeria's economic development over flyovers and the likes?
Well, to be honest with you, some of these, flyovers, if you ask me, some of them are actually liabilities, to be honest, compared to factories. You now look at a flyover. How many people has it employed, as it were? You look at a flyover, the money, the resources expended on that flyover, if the same resources were expended on building a factory, how many people would have been employed? How many families would have been rescued out of poverty? The flyover is, well, to be honest with you, I think there is this concept now, because the politicians now, the public office holders, do this flyover, not really because they want to, develop any economy. You look at the gap between economic development in terms of factories and economic development in terms of flyover. Okay, I'm not saying they are a bad thing to do. I'm not saying,
some people would say, are you saying they're not important?
They are not as important as factories. Now, even look at the hierarchy of needs. What do you need first? Is it not physiological needs, hunger and thirst? Okay, is it not job that you need? Is it not after you have the job and you engage in economic activities that you will use that flyover? Okay, to be honest with you, there are even some areas where flyovers are not required, but for our service, our politicians, our public office holders do this flyover. The major consideration on most of this flyover is, okay, after I leave as governor, that's what the governor will say, my name will be mentioned as the person who did this flyover. Some of these flyovers are not even completed. They leave them. What they do is they borrow from banks. They take loans from banks to do this flyover. Look, Chiamaka, it's a very clear thing. Okay, you cannot have people that are hungry. The current level of hunger in the land, the current level of unemployment in the land, the current level of economic squeeze in the land. People have no jobs. Universities keep churning out graduates every now and then, not even annually now, every now and then. And these graduates are on the street. Both skilled and unskilled jobs are simply not there. There are people who have been looking for jobs for 10, 15, 20 years. Okay? And none is coming. And then you have someone who, okay, let's, for instance, let's look at the Lagos Calabar Coastal
Highway.
Highway, 15.4 trillion naira. Tell me how many factories that money would have built. In my article, I actually estimated, okay, I'm not talking about huge mega factories. I'm saying that between 250 to 500 million could well establish a mini factory for you. And the good thing, Chiamaka, is that this country is awash with resources. There is virtually no local government you go to, out of 774 local governments, that you not find a resource. Now, instead of our leaders, our public office holders, looking at how we can exploit these resources, you see, for your economy to produce, for your exchange rate to come down, you have to build a productive economy. You were just saying the naira, has gone down again. It keeps going down. That stability is no longer volatility. No, we're not talking about volatility, with all due respect. We're talking about, the rate. We are not talking, civilian governor, we are not talking about volatility. We are talking about the rate is too high because it has actually affected the cost of everything. What was 10 naira before is now 40 naira or 50 naira. So, Chiamaka, the right thing to do is the government should partner with state governments and set up a 3.5 trillion fund, okay, industrialization fund annually, so that at least one factory is built per state and FCT every year. 3.5 trillion naira. Government, as I recommended, government, contributes 35% and states, okay, 65%. And we have this 3.5 trillion naira fund every year. The government, a state government, should be able to say, look, this is the factory we have started. Okay, I'm talking about factories now because you see, the factories give birth to MSMEs, isn't it? Okay, MS. You can imagine a mini factory. How many? A textile factory, for example. A textile. Imagine you have resuscitated the Adio Textiles, the former UNTL in Kaduna. Imagine how many people will come to buy, will open shops, small businesses, and buy these textiles from Adio Textiles and set up small businesses. Imagine how many agents, will fit from there.
But doctor, our viewers may be wondering, what are your metrics for coming up with that figure now? That is the 3.5 trillion naira fund. What were your metrics in, coming up with that specific figure? Why 3.5 trillion naira?
What I was looking at is the, capacity of the state governments, the capacity of the, federal government. I said, okay, at least every year, annually, a mini factory by my own conservative, if you like, estimation.
Your own estimate?
Yes, estimate, based on estimate. You have about 250, 300 million. And this 300 million is actually the cost of one SUV. I tell you, one SUV, one. And recently, our lawmakers, federal lawmakers, took 600 pieces, about 600 pieces, SUVs. I don't think I have the head to 600 pieces times $200,000 times 300 million. 200 pieces times 300 million. Okay, so you can imagine by my estimation, one SUV can build a mini factory. One, at most two, can build a mini factory. So now 250, 300, between 250 to 500, let's even say 500, can build one. Now 500, that means in a billion, you can have as many as two mini factories. Okay, then you are looking at 36 factories, 37 factories, including FCT, okay, annually. For God's sake, we can do this. If a governor can award contracts for road construction, he can also as well award contracts for mini factories. The other suggestion was on, technology village. You see, I'm talking along the angle of Nnewi here in Anambra State. Okay, you see the enterprise that was created there over time, historically, from technology. You have the need now to institute entrepreneurship, have a technology village. Okay, I tell you, our leaders are not really committed to this. What does it take to build a technology village where you can have okay, people trained on mini skills. I'm not talking about being able to develop a computer. I'm talking about plumbing. I'm talking about bricklaying, okay? I'm talking about fabrication, okay? I'm talking about auto mechanic, painting. This is what I'm talking about. And that is why I feel that our educational system, you know, technical education and vocational skills should be inculcated. It's actually there because, you know, the primary, the basic education, universal basic education, this is one of the factors. This is one of the requirements. Skills acquisition is part of universal basic education. Should be taught at primary level. Is it being taught? No, it's not. How many skills acquisition centers do you have in Nigeria today? How many skill acquisition centers do you have in primary schools when it is actually there? So, you see, that fund I was talking about on Technology Village will now be able, you know, we will promote the concept of skills acquisition. And then the other recommendation, the third one, okay, was that the federal government should partner with local governments. And this actually brings forward the, you know, the need to actually, as a matter of urgency, ensure in local government autonomy. State governors cannot continue to sit on local government funds. So I was talking about direct collaboration between the federal government and local governments to build at least one skills acquisition center in every ward. Yes, I'm really very ambitious there. From
all you have said, you are, you know, for the government's involvement in business and in the, you know, in enterprise as well. But in other parts of the world, we have seen that the involvement of the private sector leads to even better growth, you know, in the area of business. So I would like for you to speak, you know, regarding that. How do you reconcile these with the traditional views that we already have in the area of the private sector sustaining growth in business and enterprise?
Exactly, absolutely, absolutely. I actually mentioned that in my article that, you know, I understand that, okay, the role of the government is to create an enabling environment. That is a fact, okay? But now we have a very dire situation in Nigeria where no investor will come. Yes, I said this. No investor worth his salt, any investor worth his salt, foreign or local, will think twice before he invests in some of these areas. Because, number one, there is a problem with the security system, okay? There is, security is not guaranteed. The investment climate is very high exchange rate. The uncertainty is too great. And also, a foreign investor coming will have to bribe his way through many channels. Investors are divesting. Investors are divesting because of this. So that is why we have to invoke the doctrine of necessity. They have been invoking in the National Assembly, isn't it? Invoke the doctrine of necessity to bring government into business. And I'm not saying the government should run it, no. And that is why, personally, if you ask me, government should privatize the refineries because they cannot run it. So government should not run it. Our governmental structure and capacity are too weak. Governmental structure is too weak because there is no regulation. Okay, so government should not run it. But if you, I believe you read my article. Now, what I was basically saying is that you have a situation where from these funds I was talking about, 3.5, government can make it higher, okay? 1.5, 3.5 for factories, 1.5 for technology villages, and then 1 trillion for skill acquisition centers. Now, from this, government, take for example, goes to Sokoto State and sets up a textile factory, okay? Builds it, because if you are waiting for an investor to come, they will not come. How much has Nigeria spent traveling abroad to woo investors? How many investors have come? How many? You look at the success rate. So they will not come. So don't wait for them, but build something. Now, the example I was giving, you go to Sokoto State, you set up a textile factory. You, let's even say tomato paste factory, the example I gave in the article. Now, before setting up this tomato paste factory, You have actually, built a huge tomato storage facility and drying facility. Okay, you have shown commitment on the ground. Okay, and then you invite the investor. You now partner. The investor has seen what you have done. That is the way to attract an investor, not to visit him in the United States or United Kingdom. Do something right here and show him. Let him see. So that he'll be able to share the risk. If you're asked how, can we at least have an environment where we're able to attract investors, you would say start something. Start something, exactly. Now start it. Now when you do that, okay, when you do that at some point, okay, you have already built the factory, okay? Government has invested and built the factory. Government sells it. Government should not run it. The factory, is it going to be taken away? No. Factory is there. Government has built it and it has invited the investor, and the investor has invested his money, and now government says, okay, look, pay me my balance. And again, another very important aspect of this is the corporate tax. The government is going to be, government will actually make profit from that factory. Through taxation. Of course. Tell me how much the government will make from a flyover. Is there a tax on flyover? Government will make more money, will make profit, will recoup its investment and make profit from that factory. But I will like to cut you short there. And in 1 minute before we go, because unfortunately our time is far gone, are you saying that infrastructure building is not important, or again you're saying that there is expected to be a scale of preference as to what is important for the masses? Absolutely. For now, okay, we should have a scale of preference, okay, and order of priority. Government has left the industrial sector lying fallow for too long. It is going down. So there is need for the government to now focus. Okay, most of these roads we are talking about, they are actually there. What they do is the new roads are not being constructed. They simply, do the potholes and renovation, they call them. So it's not new. It's not new. And for how long have we been doing roads? The industrial sector needs urgent government attention. Government should come in, okay, and apply this zero budgeting. Say 35% is going to the textile industry, for example. After all, government budget achieves like less than 50%, SOX implementation. Less than 50%. Actually, in states, there is no budget, to be honest with you. There is no state in budget. It is the national I'm talking about. Okay? So why can't the government take that 35% and say, okay, look, this budget is on, not this grammar to say budget of hope or budget of, no, budget for the resuscitation. For the resuscitation of the textile sector. In the words of my guest, the industrial sector in Nigeria is in need of urgent intervention, and it is important that the right attention be given to the sector. I have been speaking with Dr. Alkali Abubakar, who is a public affairs analyst. Thank you, Doctor, for all the insights that you've given to us on today's edition of the program. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. And this is where we draw the curtains on Business Daily today, coming to you live on Trust TV. Join the conversation on social media and let us hear from you. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.